The Palantir thing is very odd.
A lot of people feel that this is the precursor to a social credit score, a digital kind of police state, and that it's being done under the guise of security, that you will be safer.
Surveillance state isn't coming. It's here. It's been lurking in the shadows for over 20 years. They just called it Palantir.
Hi everyone, JJ here. Welcome back. Well, Palantir is the emerging surveillance state. That's the topic of this video. We're going to get into that. Last video I talked about, Tim Dillon did a roast of Peter Thiel and his obsession with the Antichrist. And of course, Peter Thiel is a co-founder of Palantir, and it talks about this video where it got to today, being so involved in the US government and surveillance and war. So if you don't know much about Palantir, a lot of people don't, you might learn something about this today. Let's get into it. First, Tim Dillon talking about it and Joe Rogan joking about it, and then we'll get more serious about what Palantir is and what they're actually doing.
These guys have always had a ton of power, but with tech, the level of power in terms of surveillance and data mining and the power over your life has never been as Orwellian as it is now. And it, even with AI and all of these models, it's even going to get more intrusive.
Yeah.
So I think it's not only these great fortunes, but it's their capability to literally be gods, to literally know what you're thinking, what you fear, what you want, your desires, all of these things, having all your data, knowing everything you do. That's what bothers a lot of people. It's what bothers people about this Palantir thing.
Yeah.
So these guys were MAGA people. They supported Trump, and they do know about Palantir. Joe Rogan has had Peter Thiel on the show and others involved with Palantir as well. So they're starting to question this, which I think is good. It's not just conspiracy theories, as you'll see in this video, what Palantir is actually up to. There's a lot of cheerleaders of Palantir, of course, because people have made a lot of money on the stock. There's some what you might call useful idiots who cheerlead what's going on without being critical at all, and it's because they've made a lot of money from the stock, and people might stop there if they're invested and they've made 400, 500, I don't know, 1,000% on it, but don't really care. Yeah, that's where it's at with some people.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
The Palantir thing is very odd.
A lot of people feel that this is the precursor to a social credit score, a digital kind of police state, and that it's being done under the guise of security, that you will be safer.
Which is what the Patriot Act was brought through with.
That's exactly right.
It's always the case. It's always the case. They always sneak it in like, you got to be safe.
They write about that. Some people might remember back Edward Snowden, he was warning about this, and what is described in this video here, this is Vanessa Wingard, who I really like her videos. I think she's doing some really good work. I'm going to put links to her video here. I've just taken some snippets from it. It's a longer video, really in depth. Edward Snowden, what's described as what some of Palantir does in his book about it and in his reporting on it back, when he was a whistleblower, still is a whistleblower, isn't allowed back into the US. He talked about this tool that he was using to surveil people, to find people. I must say it sounds a lot like Palantir's tools, and they have been going for quite a long time now. After Peter Thiel sold PayPal, that's when they started Palantir.
The surveillance state isn't coming. It's here. It's been lurking in the shadows for over 20 years. They just called it Palantir. Millions of Americans have files in government databases, their movements, purchases, and communications connected by software from a company called Palantir. And the worst part, we helped fund its creation. What exactly does Palantir do? Palantir has current and past contracts with the FBI, DHS, IRS, CDC, SEC, and the Pentagon.
So deeply in the US government, and DOGE worked with them well. Elon Musk worked with them. They're consolidating a lot of data, and Palantir is this kind of operating system behind the scenes in government and in corporations as well, and not just in the US. This is going worldwide, as Vanessa points out in this video.
Access data for police departments in multiple countries, healthcare networks including the United Kingdom's National Health Services, Cleveland Clinic managing patient care across hospitals. They're in the banks processing your transactions, the factories building your cars, Tyson Foods monitoring production facilities, industries, and Fortune 500 companies from Wendy's to General Mills. In a letter from Alex Karp, he states,
Alex Karp is the CEO of Palantir, very outspoken, and he's very controversial. They're involved with being partners with even the Israeli army to target people in Gaza, which is incredibly problematic what's going on, but he's unapologetic about it. And it's because, as Vanessa does point out in this video, it's not really a consumer company. They don't have to convince us. They don't care how annoyed we are because we're not buying from them. It's governments, it's corporations.
"We have chosen sides, and we know that our partners value our commitment. We stand by them when it is convenient and when it is not." This is the CEO saying that they will support the government agencies regardless of what these agencies choose to do. No moral boundaries, no questions asked, even when it's not convenient, meaning when it's morally wrong.
Well, morally wrong. They do have a moral stance. Their ideology, very ideologically based company. They talk about standing up for Western values, and so they don't work for China. If they're going to be in government, working for the military, they don't work for governments that are in opposition. That's their stance, but very military minded. And what happens when Western governments, like you could say the US government right now, turns more authoritarian? Palantir is just going with it. And Peter Thiel has said, he actually said in writing that he doesn't think democracy is compatible with freedom. Whose freedom does he mean? Of course, himself and other fellow tech billionaires, but does he mean the people, the population? Does he care about democracy at all? Does Palantir care about it? It really does seem not.
This is a company explicitly saying they'll enable any government action, seemingly no matter how authoritarian, as long as the check clears. Their CEO openly states their mission to become the US government's central operating system, all while fear-mongering and using war rhetoric. The same software tracking you at a protest is also identifying targets on the battlefield.
Yes, and ICE is using it too. ICE is using, their technology, their software, many different areas, as you said, not just opposing in war, but domestically as well, increasingly domestically on the domestic population. For what? For ICE, for demonstrations, for whatever the government wants.
Palantir is here to disrupt and make our institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them.
Okay, so when he said that there was a protester that came up on stage. One of my previous videos about Alex Karp in particular and Palantir, he had a protester in the audience talking about their involvement in Gaza targeting, and he admitted it, and he said, yes, we're targeting terrorists, but a lot of people in the world really are against what's going on there now, the atrocities happening there. So they're in a bad position in terms of stance, but they just don't care because we're not their customers.
This is the power of Gotham. An analyst can type in a single name, maybe yours. Within seconds, Gotham pulls everything it knows about you from connected databases.
Okay, so this rings a bell. Edward Snowden was talking exactly about this kind of software in the book and in the reporting about, when he was a whistleblower. This is what he was talking about. He described something like this, a tool that he was using that was just like this.
Your driver's license, passport, criminal records, employment history, financial transactions, people you've communicated with, and even your dog's vet records. But Gotham doesn't just compile the data, it looks at behaviors, identifying your routines, relationships, and most importantly, anomalies. Gotham was built for the United States intelligence community to track potential terrorists after 2001. The same Gotham instance tracking potential threats overseas is being deployed by local law enforcement. The Los Angeles Police Department uses it for predictive policing. The New York Police Department has used it for gang monitoring, and ICE uses it to track immigrants.
Yes, ICE is using it. I mean, that's been reported lately, but you'd be forgiven for not knowing that because it's not like in mainstream media, but that is happening. ICE is using this now, and this is increasingly problematic as they target more and more people. Who are they able to target? Anybody that they want to. By the way, if you're getting value out of this, episode so far. I would appreciate it if you remember to hit that like button to help it spread. Thanks.
Same algorithms designed for military operations are being used on civilians.
You may not know it, but almost every European country in some form or another uses our CT product, counterterrorism product. We always have to sign these contracts. We can't talk in Europe about who uses our product, which is slightly annoying because I'm constantly getting yelled at by people who are protected in our product.
But tracking people was just phase one. Palantir would do something even more dangerous and lethal: automated targeting.
And this is where they've been criticized for work helping the IDF in Gaza, for instance. Incredibly problematic, increasingly so over the last couple of years, as that has got worse and worse what they've been doing.
In 2017, the Pentagon launched Project Maven with a simple goal: teach AI to identify targets, not just vehicles or buildings, but people. The system would analyze drone footage, satellite imagery, and surveillance video to autonomously detect, classify, and track human beings. Palantir has signed contracts to expand Maven across the entire Department of Defense. It's also not limited to just the United States.
Okay, they're going to talk about internationally here. So that Project Maven, originally Google was involved in that. Employees of Google rose up and said, we don't want to be involved in this. We don't want to be involved in the military and war. But Palantir had zero problem with that. They took the contract and ran with it, and it's got bigger. And increasingly, more and more Silicon Valley companies are coming around to that, bending the knee to Trump in particular. That's happened since the election, and working with the military, and increasingly authoritarian government. And we know what authoritarian governments do with surveillance, right? If we know what China does. We criticize China, but the same kind of thing is developing in the United States and in other so-called Western democratic countries.
Earlier this year, NATO completed a deal to acquire Maven for all 32 NATO countries. Palantir is partnered with the Five Eyes, consisting of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the US, and the UK.
New Zealand, where I am, and all those Five Eyes. Again, Edward Snowden was talking about that Five Eyes network, the spy network with these Western nations, and Palantir is involved. And Israel, of course.
They have additional partnerships.
We are seeing rapid expansion and very significant demand for Maven, both in America and outside of America, as all part of our core mission to provide an unfair advantage to the noble warriors of the West.
Palantir's founders weren't just building technology, they were building an ideology.
This platform will transform production in the value chains that power our kill chains.
And the value chains that power our kill chain. So he's talking about really the companies and systems that help the kill chain being war, killing the enemy. So they're talking about manufacturing here that will grow because of Palantir growing and the US war machine carrying on and growing. Endless wars benefits Palantir and Palantir shareholders.
Palantir wants to redirect civilian manufacturing to military production through software alone. Chaos drives growth. Peace and prosperity threatens the business model. When a company's revenue is dependent on conflict, there's a clear incentive to find enemies everywhere.
That focus on civil liberties is making us really rich, which drives the woke, pagan, religious practicing, Neanderthal thinking people who ignore technology absolutely nuts on the right and the left.
Okay, so this is why he doesn't care about what he says here. He's not selling it to us. He's selling it to companies, corporations behind the scenes, and government. He really doesn't care. If this was a consumer-led company, he would not be saying things like that. He would be being more careful.
Every earnings call, every public appearance, he repeats the same messages: collapse, crisis, existential threat. He makes it seem like we're living in this permanent emergency and only Palantir can save us. When you build your entire business on conflict, peace becomes the enemy. Stability threatens profits. Democracy, with its messy debates and privacy laws, gets in the way. We become part of the institutions we serve.
Okay, so being part of the institutions they serve, being part of the government. One of the definitions of fascism is when government and corporations are working very closely together, and this kind of thing in a military sense. This is what is happening here with Palantir for sure.
Should one private company have this much power, this much reach not only in governments, but corporations all over the world? Should the same company tracking terrorists be tracking civilians? The surveillance state isn't coming. It's here. It's been lurking in the shadows for over 20 years. They just called it Palantir.
Indeed. So this is why Palantir is the surveillance state. They've got such a big market share of what is going on here to develop a surveillance system within the US, within other countries, really worldwide. They're not sticking just to the US and working with the US government. Of course, not working with China, but they've got their own surveillance system, their own social credit score, right? It's developing like it's really not that different, but maybe you have a different opinion on it. What do you think? I really, really dislike this company. I know a lot of people like it, especially if they're shareholders and they've made a lot of money and the price of it is huge. The metrics on it, the PE ratios and other metrics are sky high because they're AI based. Anything AI related is like that. But let me know what you think of this company. And right now I'm going to put a related link on screen. I'll put a link to the first video I made about this, about Peter Thiel and his obsession with the Antichrist. And he is related to Palantir. If you haven't seen that already, I'm going to put a link on the screen back to that. And also a subscribe link. Do subscribe if you're not subscribed already to get more videos like this in the very near future. Thanks for watching this one, everyone. And I'll see you in the next one.